Oh my,
Hello, good brothers and good sisters. It's time for another quick little Transformers review, and I recently took a look at Power the Prime's Wind Charger, and here's the other little guy that I picked up. Now available at Big Bad Toy Store. They've got both the Hasbro version, the Takara version, and a 4-pack, which also includes Shrapnel and a new Dinobot named Slash. The packaging is just like the Wind Charger packaging. You got the Autobot Geologist, Beachcomber in robot mode on the front, which features some custom card art for Beachcomber with a big grin on his face because, hey man, don't worry, be happy, even if you're in a war that has lasted millions of years. And the back tells you that he's a geologist who uses his scanners to locate resources. So that's kind of cool that they talk about the science aspect of his character instead of the warrior aspect. And they also show off how the little guys, the Prime Masters, can fit inside as a driver. Alright, let's do some geological research ourselves. Whip out the old X-Acto knife and let's take a look at Power the Prime's Beachcomber. And here he is out of the package, and very similar to Power the Prime's Wind Charger, he's got a lot of articulation, great articulation in his shoulders. Arms can do a full 360. He's got an elbow bend, and because it's on a ball joint, he also can swivel out to the side or even further back in unnatural ways. And he's also got hips on a ball joint. So, just like everybody else these days, he can do the Van Damme ultimate splits. And his knee articulation is really good. It's actually, since it's part of his transformation, it looks like it's even further than normal. Usually that's how far a knee can bend on a Transformer, modern Transformer. You're lucky if you get that. But this guy, I just realized something. This guy's a very zen, peaceful dude. He likes to probably meditate in a field. And you can, this is really cool, you can actually pose him kneeling on the ground and just chilling and meditating. I tell you, I feel a little chilled out just watching him do this. That's really awesome. I wonder if that was on purpose or just a happy coincidence. Because I think of any of the Autobots or Decepticons, Beachcomber is the one who should have kind of a samurai style kneeling capability. And he also has this great joint in his thigh, which allows the legs so that they're not just straight forward and back, which can tend to make a Transformer kind of have, like, since he doesn't have an ankle pivot, but his feet are angled, which allows him to stand a little bit more securely and flatter footed than Power the Prime's Wind Charger. But what's even cooler is this thigh tilt, which lets you get, so we've seen the peaceful pose, but this guy is also capable of some really awesome action poses. Look at this. That is great. Really impressed again. Another very affordable, simple little guy, but what he lacks in detail and complicated transformation, he more than makes up for in his articulation. And the last thing of note is on the back here, this again is part of his transformation, it's part of his vehicle mode, but these, since they're nice and stiff, sometimes little parts like this are really loose and they don't do any good, but in this case they're nice and stiff, so they act a little bit as stabilizers so that he doesn't fall backwards. you can move these around while you're posing him and give him just a little bit more, it's like a heel, what is it called, joint, spike. Sometimes Transformers have those things that flip out, and with him it's nice that they flip to the back and give him a little bit of stability. So like in this case, if you want his toe touching the ground, you could lower this part right here, which gives him more stability. So that is another really nice design bonus for his articulation. And no, he does not have a golden fist, but that is easy enough to correct with a gold felt tip marker or some gold paint. But I'm perfectly fine with the paint job that he's got. He's got a couple of paint applications throughout. We'll see this in his vehicle mode, a split Autobot symbol. And nice paint application, I believe, on his chest. I'm not going to scratch it to check. And then some underneath there as well. It's pretty sparse, but he doesn't need that much paint. A little black back there. A bit of paint on the wheels. And the wheels, like Windcharger, are hard plastic, which I prefer on guys like this. A little silver back there. And the face isn't all that complicated, but it's a great paint job. It's really nice to get a modern toy that doesn't have really bad paint applications. So cool design and cool paint applications as well. Alright, so that is a quick look at his articulation, some of the details on him, and how about now we do a little bit of comparisons. So, gotta compare him with the G1. There's the G1 Beachcomber, and just like with Windcharger, they have carried over any little detail they could. So it's not like they had a lot of details to work with from the original, but check that out. These little circles are back. The design on the stomach is back, on the chest with these pipe-like things. The head, they're going for a more toon accurate look with this head. They want it to look more like the cartoon, but still very similar. Even the tires look similar with the gray inside them. They've gone with a different design on the arm sides, but this is fascinating, just putting them side by side and checking out the similarities. You got the engines, look similar back here. Yeah, that's cool. It's cool that he looks the same, or very similar at least, from the front and from the back. So that's Beachcomber with his G1 self. And the other big comparison, which we should take a look at, is with his masterpiece, unofficial masterpiece self, which is the X-Transbots Arcros. So comparing them side by side, I would say, let's see the colors. This guy is a little lighter than both of these two guys, but not by much. And is it just me, or is the Power of the Primes guy more detailed? At least in the chest. So maybe they were going for an even more toon look for Arcros. But at least from the front, this guy to me looks like he's got even more detail than his larger counterpart, and this guy is flimsy. Things are always falling off of him, so that's part of his transformation. But in terms of articulation, you know, I think it's either close or the little guy has even more articulation. But the thing I absolutely love about Arcros is that he came with a bunch of birds. So I think I'd actually like to just take one of these birds from Arc Rose and give it to this Beachcomber, because I think he would look fantastic if he was just posed kneeling on the ground with a bird in his hand. And another great thing about Arc Rose, of course, is the golden hand that he dipped in the Electrum pond. But that looks fantastic. It's really cool. Just with a little bird in his hand. Alright, time for another blind transformation. And let's see how complicated this one is. I'm assuming, since this Autobot symbol has to come together, we're going to plug those together, and these things that support the heels in the back come out. Since we have this little peg right here, it would feed into that little hole. I'm not going to plug that together just yet though, because sometimes you have to unplug stuff like that, depending on how other parts transform. Like Windcharger is sort of sequential in a sense. Let's see, this piece right here in the waist looks like it separates somehow. Does it? Yeah, just like the old days. Lots of Transformers do that. They collapse and elongate. So that gets rid of his head, because I was wondering, what do you do with his head? It doesn't fold up or down. It just disappears when you do that. Now that we've done that, let's see, this folds up. Let's plug that together. Put those together, satisfying click. And since there's little pegs there and little holes there, I think those feed together like that. And it's a lot more fun transforming this guy than some Masterpiece guys. These arms, I think, just fit into there. And is that it? I think that might be it. The hands, there's nothing you need to do with them. I think that's it. And oh, he sits pretty well. Sometimes when I transform a guy, he's lopsided, like his all four wheels don't touch the ground at the same time, but this guy, he's there. He's good. And that is also a really nice update to the original Beachcomber dune buggy. There wasn't really much to the original version, and for a comparison, let's just transform the original, and here they are side by side, and all of the major details have been retained here. The headlights that are elevated, separate pieces, the cage, which is a different color this time, but still there. And we've got the dual engine. It's pointing straight up on the old version. It's more kind of out to the back in the new one. But very nice update. So he looks like his G1 self in robot mode and in vehicle mode. And let's see if one of the Titan Masters, or whatever the other little guys are called, fits. So in my Windcharger video, he didn't fit if you just put him in the traditional sense like this. And being an old school G1er, this is how I insert my headmasters into their vehicles. So this guy, he seems to fit nice and easy. So what was mentioned in my Windcharger review in the comments section is that this Titan Master will fit. Oops, he'll fit if you rip his arms off, Wookiee style. But you can get these guys to fit in Windcharger if you move their arms up, which, I don't know, just, I guess that works to get him in there. I would prefer to have the arms down, just because that's what I used to do with the old headmasters. or at least the one headmaster I had. So that's the way I want him to sit in there. That's the way I think he looks right to me. So I think it's really cool that a headmaster or a tight master will fit in there like that without having to raise his arms up. And I think that looks great. Transformers to me always look better when they have a driver inside. So that is a cool little feature. But if you do have Masterpiece Spike, this little guy who was included with Masterpiece Optimus Prime version 2, he fits as well. So he didn't even come close to fitting in Windcharger, but he just fits in Beachcomber, which is awesome. That's really cool, seeing an 85 bot with Spike in him. So as a longtime Transformers fan, that's especially cool since they never made a Spike that looked like that. Construction worker Spike, or oil rig worker Spike in the old days. So they did make the headmaster, but that just looked like a little transformer. So that to me just looks awesome whenever I see Spike in one of the 84 or 85 Autobot cars. I can just picture him jumping in old Beachcomber, and they're gonna take a spin down to the beach so that Beachcomber can do some geological surveys and Spike can work on his tan. So that's a cool little extra bonus. And the transformation back is just as quick and easy. So I think this is the only part you need to be a little careful about. When you pull this out, you want to be careful because this peg right here is a little on the long side. It's not a nub like on the top here. You're not as likely to break this little nub right here, but this is longer. So if you just kind of reef on it, you might crack that right off. So you want to be a little more careful. And you pull the arms. I guess they just detach because they clip in with this little tab plugs into there. And then you just make the sound. And you swing these back. Feels like you need to do something here, but you don't. They're just, that's how they are in both vehicle and robot mode. And that's it. Feels like more futzing is required. You push this in the back to kind of hide the hole in his back. But that's it. It's a really quick, simple transformation. And this is a fun little guy to pose. Especially these thigh swivels. Really make for much more dynamic leg poses, which is kind of funny because this guy's not an action bot. This was the chill guy, the relax man, everything is everything. He's the Footloose of Transformers. So it's funny to me that he has the capability of some of the coolest attack action poses, even though he's the one that would just probably be more likely to kneel and count the seagulls, man. Ba-doop, boop, boop, boop. So that is Power of the Prime's Beachcomber. Fun little bot. It's cool looking at some of these smaller guys and modern Transformers. And I will be looking at the G1 guys in the near future. Just as soon as I take a look at one more modern Transformer guy who just recently came out, I got Siege 6 Gun. So looking forward to taking a peek at him. Really love the cog from Siege. So I'm looking forward to taking a look at 6 Gun and seeing how he integrates with Metroplex as well. But that is Beachcomber, one of the coolest, grooviest Autobots, and definitely a peaceful warrior if there ever was one. Big thanks as always to the Patreon tribe. Glad to see so many people enjoying the community wall there and enjoying the Patreon roundtable discussions, either being on the actual calls or just watching them as the Patreon exclusives posted later. If you have a question or comment you'd like to share about Power of the Prime's Beachcomber, scroll down and go to town. And to join the tribe, man, lightly tap subscribe. Nerdmas Day.